The ghost of Jeffrey Epstein continues to haunt the circles of the super rich, and with the recent release of 3.5 million documents, the list of ruined reputations and abrupt resignations continues to grow. The latest casualty is Thomas Pritzker, cousin of Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and billionaire heir to the Hyatt hotel fortune. He resigned Monday from his role as executive chairman of the hotel corporation after his connection to Jeffrey Epstein was further outed in the latest document drop. The DOJ's files show decades of communication between Pritzker and the sex offender, and crucially, they remained chummy even after Epstein's 2008 conviction for soliciting prostitution from a minor. Not a good look. And then there's Casey Wasserman, the head of the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics organizing team. He is also under fire. LA's Mayor Karen Bass is calling on him to resign just days after Wasserman announced he is selling his talent agency due to interactions with Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. The reckoning for power players in the private sector has been swift. But so far, the Epstein files have not led to any further prosecutions. Why? In the UK, on top of being stripped of his royal titles, allegations against the former Prince Andrew are being examined by 3 separate police forces. And now police in Essex are assessing records of private flights at London's Stansted Airport after files showed how Epstein was able to use the airport to fly in girls from around the world. In the United States, on the other hand, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche announced the DOJ's review of the Epstein sex trafficking case is over and that there's not enough evidence to bring charges against anyone. So are the powerful getting a pass on criminal behavior, or are these former friends of Epstein guilty of nothing more than bad judgment? I'm now joined by former federal prosecutor Neema Rahmani and criminal defense attorney Brian Claypool, who has had plenty of experiences in sex offense cases. Neema, I'll start with you. Heads are rolling in corporate boardrooms where even just emailing with Epstein makes a person radioactive, much less flying on his plane, even if it's to someplace innocuous. But there are no criminal investigations at all. Why not?
Well, the political fallout is far and wide, and we've seen it. At a minimum, like you said, it's shameful, poor judgment to be friends with a creep like Jeffrey Epstein. But for a case, whether it's civil or criminal, we need more. We need a victim who's living, so not Virginia Giuffre, who's willing to come forward and accuse someone aside from Jeffrey Epstein, he's dead, or Ghislaine Maxwell, who's in prison, some corroborating evidence, and a case within the statute of limitations if it's a civil case. I think that's the missing link. We need someone to accuse someone other than Epstein or Maxwell and come forward and be willing to tell their story. If so, we may have a case. But without it, I hate to say it, this may be the end of the road, at least criminally, for justice for the Epstein abuse victims.
But Neema, we just watched more than a dozen women stand up and raise their hands behind Attorney General Pam Bondi in her congressional hearing and say, I've called the DOJ with evidence of crimes, and the DOJ won't call me back.
Well, we have seen that. We've actually seen correspondence as well. What I would like is for them to come forward and identify someone other than Jeffrey Epstein. Obviously, we saw that infamous picture from last week where Pam Bondi wouldn't even look at those abuse victims. And I believe the victims, Elizabeth, but I think we need something more. Their files themselves, they're hearsay. They're not admissible in court. Court cases are based on witness and victim testimony. I think that's what we need. And without it, and without someone being accused, I'm afraid that's not enough.
Brian, why isn't the DOJ calling any of these women back? Why are they saying case closed? Why is Todd Blanche announcing nothing, we're done?
Yeah, hey, Elizabeth, great to be back with you. Like you said, I've repped over 150 sexual abuse victims as minors, and I will tell you, it's super frustrating, even in the cases I've been involved in, to get criminal prosecution. Even when you have a victim coming forward, unless you have some kind of tangible, independent evidence to support prosecution, they're really hard cases to prove. Look what happened in the P. Diddy case.
Yeah, so their stories aren't enough is what you're saying. You've got to have hard evidence.
Exactly. You need to have, and by the way, when you interview a victim too, Elizabeth, that victim has to be credible. You have to be able to rely on that victim. They have to have a good memory.
Yeah.
They've got to identify, like Neema said, another assailant, or for example, they went to the emergency room and did a rape treatment and got a kit that shows some evidence of a sexual assault.
Brian, listen, it might not be happening at the DOJ or in, with federal prosecutors, but it sure is happening in corporate boardrooms. Now you've got LA Mayor Karen Bass calling on Casey Wasserman to resign from leading the Los Angeles 2028 Olympic Games. Wasserman sold his talent agency after many of the clients revolted. We have the chairman of one of the nation's top corporate law firms had to resign because he emailed with Epstein. The list goes on and on. Larry Summers, Leon Black, Catherine Rumler, Les Wexner, Peter Attia. I could go on and on. They've all had to resign from positions. None are accused of crimes, but all are shown in these files to have had a chummy or, in some cases, creepy relationship with Epstein. You say in this case it's a case of optics versus evidence.
Yeah, exactly, Elizabeth. You got to be looking at this as optics versus evidence. What do I mean by that? You can't look at the Epstein file in a vacuum. You have to look at every single email where somebody is mentioned, for example, like in the Wasserman case, not to minimize it, but he doesn't mention a minor. He's emailing Ghislaine Maxwell about how he wants to see her. That's not a crime.
Yeah.
And by the way, your name in the file is not a crime in and of itself. So yeah, I think what's destroying a lot of these corporate executives is the optics, right? Does anyone want to be affiliated with somebody who's been, emailing an alleged pedophile?
Well, but clearly not, which is why we're seeing so many of these people lose their jobs or having to resign. Thank you both so much. There'll obviously be big news on this tomorrow because Les Wexner is being deposed by a congressional committee. Les Wexner was an unindicted co-conspirator who was miraculously, let off the hook at some point. So more to follow and to be continued. Neema Rahmani, Brian Claypool, thank you both so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Talk soon.
All right.